Hey, what's up guys, Metal571 here, and today we're going to be talking about the Beyerdynamic Custom Studio. So this headphone is a pretty unique one, but it also is very similar to a headphone that you've probably seen a review of before on my channel, which is the DT770. I've talked about it quite a bit. There's a couple different variations of it that I've mentioned, and of course my favorite was always the 80 ohm. So this is an interesting headphone because this is based on the DT770, and it just also so happens to be an 80 ohm version of the driver. Now, is it tuned the same? Well, you'll have to wait and find out when I talk about the sound. But first, let's talk about the build quality. Now, this thing is, of course, as you know, it's a beyerdynamic, and if you've seen any of my previous reviews, you know that these things are tanks. They really don't break, at least that often. These yokes are actually made of metal. These inserts are made of metal. By the way, you can customize these. You can swap them out, hence the name custom. I have not tried that, but it does include a hex Allen wrench, interestingly, to remove these Allen wrench screws over here. And then you can slide in, I guess, I think you can pop this whole thing off. I believe. I'm not big on the fashion trends and things, guys, so obviously that's not my forte, but at least you can do it here. So that's customizable. The yokes, these only fold this much, which is fine. I mean, they're not like a M50X, they don't fold up into a nice little ball, and so you can carry them around, but it's okay because these are studio headphones, not portables, so it's not really that big of a deal. If you want something folding, I'd say probably an M40X would be pretty good, but that is not really on the same level of sound quality as these guys, which again, I'll talk about in a little bit. The headband is, this is a Pro headphone, so this gets the button treatment. You can literally just unsnap these. I'm serious, they're just buttons, and remove the whole thing and replace it in like a minute. So that's the repairability aspect. Again, as you guys may know, the Pro, rather than the premium style models of beyerdynamics, are designed for maximum field replaceability in terms of being repaired. So something that these have, oh yeah, comfort. Comfort is great, of course. You guys know how I feel about the other DTs. These are no different. You just get the black velour pads here. Very comfortable, but they are, of course, a little bit harder clamping, and the foam here is not really memory foam. It's just thicker, denser foam, so you actually block sound. Velour ear pads get a reputation for not having very good sound isolation, but that's not really the case in this situation at all. They're quite good, very good in fact, right up there with some pleather headphones, which is impressive because you don't have to worry about your ears sweating with these guys. Now, differences from the DT770, as I said, this is based on the DT770, and so something you have that you do not have there is this guy. Yes, a removable cable. Pretty cool. I mean, we've only been asking for this from the DTs for how long? So it's pretty cool that this is here. Unfortunately, you don't put it in and then twist it to lock. You just have to, it's got this key. I don't know if you guys can even see that, but it's keyed. Here, you know what? I'll move a little bit closer. Yeah, and now you can see that. There's a key on there, and it's keyed so that this only goes in a very specific angle. And that's about it. But if you were to rip this out of someone's hand, this would just pull right out. I mean, it's pretty snugly in there though, so I'm not complaining. But just in case you were wondering, it does not twist and lock like some headphones do. The other difference is you have adjustable bass ports here. Interestingly, on a cup by cup basis. So you have that, and I'll talk about how that changes the sound. It's mainly a bass port, and it lets you adjust the bass level. And actually, moving on, let's talk about the sound of these guys now that we have comfort and build out of the way. And I always start with the bass. So again, the bass here with the setting fully open, which is this, is about the same as a DT770, very similar. It's quite bassed, it's quite boosted, sorry. It's quite boosted. It's quite extended into the sub bass, and it gives you a nice level of slam. But with these you can customize it. Beyer says that the minimum setting here, all the way closed, is bass reduced. The next setting up is linear. The next setting up is vibrant bass, and then there's the extra bass boost mode. So basically it turns it from anything from a bassless K240 to the monster that is the DT770's bass response, which is pretty cool. And I kind of agree with the linear setting. However, you guys know that I like obviously boosted bass. If you look at it on a frequency response graph, this setting right before the bass reduced bass mode, the linear setting, it sounds pretty accurate to me in terms of if you like a flat bass response, but that sounds too recessed to me when it's measuring flat on a graph. So that's just my preference. I like to leave them either all the way open or one step below all the way open. That's just, well, who knows? I'm a consumer, not a professional audio creator here, so that's probably why I like it that way. The mids, classic DT770 mids. I'm not hearing any obvious colorations here. When things are harsh in a track, they're harsh on these, and if they're not harsh, then they're very smooth. There's nothing really jumping out about the mids, which is unusual because usually I complain about the upper mids on like every headphone. I don't know if that's just me, but these are good. I like these. This is the kind of mid-range that I want. If the mid-range is too forward on these for distorted guitar, then chances are you're listening to a poorly recorded song rather than actually having the headphones being at fault. So there's not much else to say about it. I think it sounds great. Depending on how much you boost the bass, it can bleed a little bit into the upper bass, but I don't really think it's messing with the mids, so the mids remain pretty much where they should be. Now the treble, on the other hand, you guys know that my thing with Beyer treble has not necessarily been the happiest relationship, and unfortunately that's also the case here. Now, I posted about this thing on Reddit, and people immediately went at me and said, oh no, there's no way, this thing has way less treble than the DT770 80 ohm. Now, I will admit, it's been a while since I've heard the DT770, even the 80 ohm version. It's been a while. Sadly, I sold that thing despite my glowing review on my channel, which I still stand by. I guess I thought the A900X served me better for a while there, but I'm starting to change my mind now, and I'm really trying to look for another one of those headphones. Excuse me. But with these, I feel like the treble is somewhere between 250 ohm levels and the 80 ohm. The 80 ohm still sounded smoother to me than sounded smoother than these do, from what I can remember. Now, it's not to say the treble here is bad. It's very well extended. It's beautifully, glisteningly detailed. It sounds insanely good for a closed-back headphone, period. However, I still find that it is tiring to listen to over a long period of time with some genres. Now, here's the thing. My preferences, I try to listen to a very wide variety of genres, everything from crazy electronic music all the way to like classical. And I will say that these will handle things like metal and rock just so well, especially if it's well recorded. And the treble on the track isn't too forward already. Basically, with any genre that isn't recorded with a lot of mid-treble and low-treble forward, it will sound awesome on these because it brings out that region more, if that makes sense. And it is very extended too, so it's very, very crisp and clean. But again, it sounds like it's boosted to me, which is not really a problem with a lot of rock and a lot of metal. It just, adds that nice V-shaped character to an otherwise somewhat mid-range heavy mix. But when you're getting into EDM, where the bass and treble are already pretty boosted on the final mix, then you've got some problems where these can get overwhelmingly bright. And overwhelmingly bassy for some people too. I happen to like it, but I guess maybe I'm somewhat of a bass head. I don't know. You guys already know what I like. Anyway, So that's what I think about the bass, mids, and treble. It just sounds like a classic DT770 to me, with not quite as much treble as the 250 ohm and seemingly more than the 80 ohm. But again, like I said, it's been a while. Who knows, man? Maybe my tastes have changed now that I've been using EQ on pretty much everything. Soundstage is as good as it's ever been. 770s have a great soundstage. These are no exception. They're based on it. So there's that. Probably the best closed back soundstage in the price range if I had to have a guess there. And I think that's about it. So basically what you're getting here is a DT770 with adjustable bass, a removable cable, customizable sides, and less treble than the 250 ohm, but about the same bass as you'd expect if you leave the bass on max. But you can pull that down. Another thing to note that I actually just learned as I looked at the manual, and I mean, apparently I don't read the manuals very often for headphones, but in this one, I had no idea, but it was an interesting fact, and it makes sense that if you close the bass port all the way, which is the bass reduced mode, which sounds really just boring and tinny, and there isn't much going on in the bass there, you do get extra isolation if you do that. Which makes sense because it has to leak at least a tiny bit, to get the bass port open to increase the bass, or even have it on the linear setting. So there's also that. The cable that comes in the box, which somehow I forgot to mention, is coiled, not surprisingly, and comes with a usual screw-on 1/4-inch jack like a Pro headphone should. However, what's nice is you can replace that cable, and Beyer has a couple of options available. I didn't look at them, but I'm sure they have a short straight cable. If you really wanted to walk around with this thing on your head, you could probably do it just fine. And that's about it there. Stay tuned, more headphone reviews coming. Leave any questions, any comments, and subscribe if you like my videos, because I'm definitely going to be continuing these. And for this video, something special happened, just a little bit. I don't know if any of you have noticed, but I've replaced the power supply on my computer, which was ridiculously making fan noise at all times. It's much better now. I got a power supply that is not a fanless design, it's a 0 RPM fan design when below, I think, 40% utilization, so pretty great. And that's going to improve. I also unplugged my hard drive. Yes, sadly, I still have a hard drive. My SSD is my boot drive, though. So I made this video about as quiet as I can. And unfortunately, I guess that makes my chair louder. But it should sound better for you guys. I'm always trying to improve sound quality. Obviously, video quality at some point will need to be worked on. This is still a webcam. This is still the Seat 920, but we'll get to that eventually, I think, if the channel grows enough. And that's about it. I'll see you guys in the next video, and make sure, just a reminder that you can follow me on Twitter at Metal571. I'm on there all the time. I check my mentions. If you have any further questions and you want to answer a little bit, more personally than just having the comments, which I do check all the time as well, feel free to mention me there. Take care.